So this is a vocal coach I see come up very, very, very often. And I haven't really taken a good gander at her stuff. So let's go through this.
Yeah, but you gotta keep it. You gotta keep that position stable.
So let's talk about, I want to translate jaw stability to, I think, something that would make a bit more sense. Like, what is the jaw stability? So if you do this, it stretches these muscles here. A lot of times when people jut their jaw forward, what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep the tongue forward and the vowel forward. What does that mean? E is the most forward vowel, and I'm actually going to show you an MRI scan where we see that. Okay, so this right here, oops, I should probably get rid of this. So this right here is the back of the throat, okay, and this is the tongue. It's nice to have a visualization for the tongue. It's very, very big muscle here. So this is an E vowel, so it actually opens the throat more than any other vowel. Why this is easier, I cannot say exactly why scientifically. I just know that there is a correlation between vowels, breath, and like how one affects the other. If you want to experience how inefficient it is to keep the tongue backwards, I would just slam your tongue all the way back, oh, and like try to sing that way. It's not very comfortable. So this is very important to keep that space open in the back of the throat, because as we go to more difficult vowels like the tongue has a risk of going back. So this is the tongue going down and back. There are singers who do this. How they do it, I don't know. How they get away with it, I don't know. But it's generally considered extremely inefficient to do this, right? So what she's doing is she's having people start on the E vowel. So you can see right here, E, A, E, A, E, O, E, U, E, A, O. Oftentimes you'll hear teachers also use meow, because that covers all vowels. Meow, right? Meow. So that's why she's putting the E vowel. And this is the reason why it's an I is because it's this is how you say E in IPA International Phonetic Alphabet. If you look in a dictionary and you look at like those weird spelling things, that's IPA. So this is the E sound in IPA. So that's why it's like this. The jaw stability thing, this could be misconceived. This could be misinterpreted, which is why I want to get very specific about it. When keeping the tongue forward, there can be a lot of things that bring the tongue back. For example, and this is just one example, the traps, the shoulder blades are connected to a muscle at the base of your larynx. And if your scapula or your lats are really tight, that muscle gets pulled down, and consequently your larynx gets pulled down, and so does everything. The tongue and the soft palate go down. And so this will help people who have a problem with that, in the way that it will force you're trying to force your tongue forward and you're trying to account for jaw tension. But if you don't address the tension in the lats and the scapula, this won't help. And so there are other examples as well where this happens. Too much air will bring everything down. It's the body's way of protecting itself. Like if you cough, you'll see that kind of things go down. So if you're using too much air, this also won't help. But for all we know, and for all I know, this student doesn't have those problems. I mean, her posture looks fine. Her shoulders don't look like this. So we can assume, I think, that she's okay with this exercise. This will stretch these muscles. Because like I said, a lot of people will compensate with a back vowel by tightening the chin and the jaw, which will put the tongue more forward. Like if you contract these muscles, right? But that's not what you want to do to achieve that. So, yeah, moving on.
That's one. But you gotta do the last one right. Yes, okay, baby. Where's the tempo? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's walk it out.
This is actually a really good idea. A lot of people don't learn. A lot of singers never really work on rhythm, and they never actually practice performing. Right? Like a lot of singers are not conscious or aware of how they look on camera on a stage. This is a really good idea. Also, moving the body this way really helps. Back to muscle tension. The hips, if they're tight, can really bring you down and like make you tight. Actually, I have a really extreme example of this. Okay, so this right here is a really good example of how muscles can be extremely tight. All right, so here's where I start, right? I'm just kind of hunched over. I have a tendency to have really tight hips. And so when you have tight hips, you're bending forward if you don't adjust for it. So if your hips are tight, they're going to pull you forward. And the way that the body is going to work, because the body is smart, is you're not going to walk around pitched forward your entire life, right? If you have tight hips. So the back will contract. So there's like, posture in singing is very difficult. And there are a lot of things that I'm really thankful for that I had a certification in Pilates, because it really helps here. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in the end. So that is a huge difference, right? Maybe from the same angle, I'll give you right here. Right, so that's where I start. This is where I end. That is all tension. That's all tension, right? And then same here. I start. It's a time lapse. And then I end much more forward. And this really helps things like jaw tension. This really helps things like too much air. These stretches are invaluable. I also do child's pose, but yeah, the other way to do this is what we're watching her do, which is this sort of movement thing. You can't tighten what's in motion, so that's why movement exercises are really valuable. Why a lot of teachers use them. Okay. So actually, by doing this, you're kind of trying to make her move her hips here, when she's demonstrating, and actually that successfully translates. So that's good that there's hip motion, because you don't want tight hips when you sing. If you want a good example of this, Chloe and Halle, the NPR Tiny Desk concert that they did, they show the movement of the torso. It's great for performing, and it looks better than standing rock solid still, and it also helps with vocal technique. Everyone should work on movement. Living in the same time, trying to find something new. Broken picture frame, I've been imprisoning, trying to find a better you. So, this is counter to having forward vowels, but it's okay. I think a lot of teachers would be like, no, this is bad. One, it's in her low range. Two, she's not using much air. So, and stylistically, this is really an important sound in a lot of different genres. Neo soul, R&B is using it a lot. Beyonce uses it a lot. It's fine to be inefficient for the sake of expressivity. And also, it's in a low range, right? She doesn't need to be perfectly doing things the most ergonomic way. So this is a sound that a lot of people like, and it's okay to have that sound. The soft palate kind of droops a little bit to create this sound. The tongue kind of is really loose, so then some of it goes back sometimes. This ain't real, this ain't gold. So what's happening here though is because she's doing this on the bottom, and she's young. And the reason I point out she's young is that our instrument fundamentally changes when we go through puberty. Like men who are like singing really well into their child years, they go through puberty and it's just like, I, right? They like, it's like, is that a high note or a Tarzan impression? I don't know. Right. So adjusting with an entirely new instrument is very difficult. But the reason why this is happening, why she's flat on these upper notes,
This ain't real.
is because look at her posture, right? The jaw is touched forward, like pitched forward a little bit. The posture is a little awkward, and her tongue hasn't moved from the position that it was when she was in her low range right here.
This ain't real.
So the tongue is going back. There's too much breath as a result of the posture. Let's see what she does about that.
This ain't what I sound up to.
International. This ain't real.
This ain't real.
It was a good demonstration.
What?
This ain't real.
That thrust of air, I would want to address that. Let's see what she does.
Exactly. I knew I love it.
This ain't real. This ain't gold. This ain't what I sound up to.
I wouldn't. So, there are ways to belt. This one I would have addressed, but before I'm critical, like one thing at a time, right? Like, so she might just not want to overwhelm the student with like a bunch of information, right?
This ain't right. Slow down. Don't go. Everything is changing. And I'll be here for you. Got to move on.
Okay, good. This addresses the movement here, addresses a lot of the tension issues and the excessive breath. So she is addressing it, and she doesn't want to overwhelm the student. So that's really, really smart. And you can hear it, right? Like instantly the change is there. You can make entire exercises based on vocal onset. Onset is the beginning of a note, right? Right? And so those are really, really valuable exercises because oftentimes when things go wrong, it's because of how the singing is started out, right?
This is
Certo che non fai troppo forte con le tacche. Oh, be real careful, baby. Appoggialo giù via.
Right. Appoggio is, I think that's what she said. It's, I have feelings on Italian words being thrown around just because it's Italian, but like it's a term, it's jargon, but it's useful. So what she's saying with appoggio is the idea that you want to expand your rib cage, so your intercostal muscles, which are the muscles in between your ribs, expand. The way that she's addressing it is smarter, right? So like, who cares about the words necessarily, as long as she communicates it to her student?
Appoggialo giù via.
So yeah, she's using less breath.
Perfect.
Right? She's using less breath. Mission accomplished. Could her vowels be better? Is she perfect? No, but that's why she's a student. And again, I think it's smart not to overwhelm your student. These are good results. These are smart things that she's doing, and it's best to praise students when they do something right.
Changing. I need that vibrato to be real consonant.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of tension.
Okay.
Okay, the studies are going to help us with the pitch. Be careful with the attack, baby. Be
Yes.
real careful with the attack. See how we're going out of pitch
Absolutely,
there with the
yeah.
E?
I generally don't. So pitch is overwhelmingly, it's a technique issue. Tone deafness is an actual physical condition where you can't tell the difference between this and this, right? Or this will sound different between each ear. So each ear it'll be off. Actually, a really fun way to experiment with this is to go swimming and then try to, work on your intonation. It's wild how the body like freaks out from the pressure change. If you want this sort of a thing to practice with, there is something called a spectrogram, and I'll show you that right now. So if you just Google free spectrogram, and the spelling is right here. It's probably a little difficult to see. Let me change angles real quick. So yeah, spectrogram, this is the word right here. What this does, and I like to put this one particularly at low like this. So, because you can see more, otherwise, like, watch this. Right, that's like blurry and has way too much information. So what a spectrogram is that the vertical axis are the frequencies, and the bright color denotes how loud that specific frequency is. So for reference, you can give yourself a note, right? And look at how clean that is on piano, right? Right? And so you can work on pitch like that. And that's kind of very close to what she was doing, and this is free. So this is a great resource, and there's a lot more you can do with a spectrogram to learn if you know more. But let's move along here.
Yep.
Notice how she's trying to fix the pitch by raising the larynx.
Yep.
Oh, that's actually good. She ends with the vibrato there.
Be careful. See how you're sliding down as it goes. So I need you to be able to sustain that note for me. Better.
Yeah, by addressing the attack, the onset of the note, that really helps. And then the be gentle remark is also really helpful. It's hard when you are the one singing. It's actually very difficult to discern when you're not on pitch unless you're actively listening to yourself, and you don't want to get in the habit of doing that. That's actually really bad. You want to build kinesthetic awareness. So let the software show you where the pitch is, and use that instead of trying to super listen and be like judgmental of your own sound, because that doesn't work. You also can't hear bone conduction affects all of the way that we hear sounds coming from our own voice as well. It's a mess. Use the software to judge your pitch. It's super easy to do, to find, and it's great.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ja, ich spreche Deutsch.
Oh, sprechen.
Ja.
That's a fun one.
Ba, 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 ba.
Nice. And you can hear how the vibrato is coming in a lot cleaner in a very short period of time.
It has to be in tune going up and in tune going down. So everybody wants to be a star. Everybody wants to be a star. Be careful.
Everybody wants to be a star.
Good job.
There's a lot of stars inside of me. There's a lot of stars inside of me.
Okay, so notice how the second she pinches the student's nose, that immediately she starts going flat again, and there's a reason why. So we've established that this student has a tendency to use too much air, and this Cheryl Porter is doing everything she can to address that. But she's not letting her student get away with nasality. There is nothing necessarily wrong with nasality, but it can be used as a big crutch, and then it doesn't sound good. It sounds strident. So what do I mean by crutch? Okay, so this is the vocal track. Don't worry about all the words and all that stuff. So this is anyway. This is right around here. I can't go too much lower because the darn pop-up thing is where you can just say the vocal folds are here, right? This is the thyroid cartilage. This is what causes vibrato. But anyway, the folds are right here. And so as you sing with more air, right? As you put air out, ideally you want very little so that you don't go flat and there's not a lot of pressure. But this is your soft palate. To feel your soft palate, do an inhale K, and the thing that comes up, that's your soft palate. If this is down, it's like a release valve, and the air goes through. Instead of going up and around, it goes straight up, and then it goes through the nose as like a release valve, right? So that's why a lot of people use nasality when they start out, is because they're actually using too much air. And so then they go for nasality to kind of compensate that. But it's not inherently bad. If you listen to like Stevie Wonder, for example, all right, this is a good example here. There we go. So that's nasality, but with good air, with not too much air. And so it's an aesthetic, it's a certain sound. And this is also why Stevie Wonder can consistently sing preposterously high, because he's not, the exhale is not excessive, but he's also using nasality, which helps. So it's an option. I think like it's much better to think of the voice as cause and effect than right or wrong. So nasality is not bad, but it's bad when it's a coping mechanism for too much air, which is exactly why the second she started pinching the student's nose, the student was going flat again. So, you know, it's a balancing act, and it takes a long time. So, right. So I also like totally want to steal this idea of using these backing tracks, because I'm not great on piano.
Not me, ma-e.
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 Now, I don't want to hear that change when I get the nose. So when we hold the nose, if we have a correct position, the sound doesn't change.
That's a good test. And even though there's a whole like the sounds that you hear in your head are not the sounds that are coming out of your mouth. But in this case, you can actually tell if the sound changes when you pinch your nose, you're using nasality. And the reason why she's going with ma is ma will lift the soft palate. And like I showed before with the vocal tract, if the soft palate's down, that's opening the nasal passage. If the soft palate is up, it's not. So that's what the ma is for. Yeah, and obviously she's exaggerating. The student didn't sound that bad. It's an example,
Okay.
which is good.
Now, beautiful.
Yeah. So, from the beginning,
It's stable. Last one.
more
But you
here,
gotta do the last. 1, 2, 3, 4.
right?
Let's walk it out.
So from the beginning of the lesson, where there's a lot of tension,
Yeah.
right? And then to the end of the lesson where there's improvement. The good thing about this is that her using the backing track, she can just give that to her student, and then they can do the same exercises. And also the benefit of this being recorded is that she can check with herself, especially when like you have like tools like this. So yeah, exactly. This is all legit. I definitely use different terminology, but some people don't benefit from that. Like if I show a graph or a picture of the larynx, for some people that's intimidating and they don't want to think that way, but I do. And so yeah, it's all copacetic. I think, yeah, that's the right word. I don't know. Okay, yeah, good stuff.